This is Jim Williams with the Hurricane City Tropical Update video for August 1st, 9 a.m. Here's the front page of Hurricane City, and we have Invest 91L on the map just east of the Lesser Antilles. I'm going to show you a bunch of images in just a minute. The hurricane hunters are out there, but before I get to all the details on that, I wanted to mention that tonight we're going to have another edition of the Weather and the Media Show. Click right here on Hurricane TV to hurricanecity.tv and watch the live presentation. I'm going to have Jim Leonard over in the studio here. Derek Sibley's going to come up from Hollywood, and we may actually have Michael Laka come up from Miami to be on the show as well. He's a longtime storm chaser, so we're all going to have a kind of a round table on chasing hurricanes. Is it safe? Should you do it? I mean, can you do it? What kind of equipment do you need to do it? That sort of stuff. What's safe? What isn't? How strong is safe enough to chase a hurricane and all that kind of thing. We're going to have all that going on tonight at 8 p.m. It'll be about a 2-hour long show. We're going to talk, of course, about 91L and the future of the storm and what's going on in the tropics so far this hurricane season, so tune in for that. Also, our current feature at Hurricane City is the island of Dominica, and this is just south of what was our current feature yesterday of Guadeloupe, and we are now shifting it further south because our system remains weak down there, and it's going to go through, slice right through the center of the Lesser Antilles between the Windward and Leeward Islands, and it looks like Dominica is going to probably take the worst out of this along with Martinique. So we'll go ahead and click on that and get all the latest radars and information from the surrounding areas. There's a few webcams in there as well, so you can enjoy it, watching the situation unfold as it moves through the Windward Islands, but there will be no coverage as far as a hurricane warning show on this system until it threatens land as a hurricane. All right, let's get to all of our images. First of all, here's the recon fixes as of this point, and they're flying around out there right now. They have not been able to close off a low-level circulation, so we do not have a tropical depression yet, but it's on the verge. It's pretty close, but there's several reasons why this system is not developing as quickly as what the models were indicating it would. But there it is east of Barbados, and we're seeing winds here at 25 miles per hour out of the east and southeast. That's the way it's been the last several days. All the buoys were indicating there were no west winds out there, and we do not have a closed low-level circulation at this time. Now, that could happen at any time. They're still flying around out there. We could end up with a vortex message and a tropical depression or tropical storm Emily, and warnings could go up for the islands at any time, and that's, again, why we are featuring the island of Dominica at this point. All right, let's take a look at a visible floater loop of this system. And you can see that the circulation is right around 14 north here, and it's been cruising pretty much almost due west the last 24 to 36 hours. It's been straddling the 14-degree north line, and the system continues to cruise off to the west. It should be moving through the islands probably by tomorrow morning, and they'll have time to put some warnings out if need be. But it is getting better organized, and it's beginning to fan out a little bit here, so we do have a strengthening system as of this time. That's why I think the hurricane hunters may find a circulation here at any moment, and this will be upgraded. All right, let's take a look at some images here. And first of all, here are the latest model runs on the situation from the front page at Hurricane City. This is from the thumbnails right below the tracking chart. Now, these update automatically in real time as soon as the new model runs are issued. However, there are a couple of models that are not listed on this map, and one of them is the H-Wharf, which takes it right towards South Florida, and the Euro, which kind of also does it, kind of takes it up like in this sort of a fashion, but it's a very weak system. So those are not represented on the map here, but all of these models are pretty much indicating they've backed off on the intensity a little bit, not quite showing hurricane status. But there is some models that are still flirting at hurricane status down in this area near Puerto Rico, and then of course it crosses the treacherous mountains of Hispaniola and then weakens over here in the Bahamas as a moderate tropical storm in most of these model runs. But I'm going to show you some individual models and kind of show you why you may not want to pay attention to models that are showing a really strong hurricane at this point, because things have kind of changed out there. First of all, here is the upper level winds from the University of Wisconsin, and you can see that. I know it's hard to read this map on these updates, but look at this. We have 30 knots of shear just north of our system and 20 knots right over the northern part of the system, and that kind of Normally, a little bit of shear, the well to the north of a system can help aid in the development of a system. It can help with the outflow and evacuate the winds at the upper levels and help a system establish itself. But in this case, they're pressing down a little bit too far on our tropical system that's trying to develop here and causing a little bit too much wind shear on the northern portion of the circulation, preventing development. And it's caused by two upper lows. We have a big upper low to the northeast, and we have another upper level low just north of what would be Emily. I wish this thing would just get classified so we can go ahead and just talk about what it is. But future Emily here, we have an upper level low to the north, so we have this continuing flow of westerly wind shear just north of the system. Plus, when it gets into the islands here, it's going to be running into land and all kinds of problems. So I don't see this really ramping up quickly, although it is possible. We'll have to pay attention to see if this can still become a hurricane before it affects the islands, at least the greater Antilles. When it's in the lesser Antilles, I'm pretty confident it'll be a tropical storm at that time. And again, here is the wind shear tendency over the last 24 hours. But notice here we have a little bit of increase out in front of where Emily would be headed. So it's just not going to have a smooth ride here going through the Caribbean. So that's, again, why I'm thinking maybe hurricane is a little bit overkilling it here. That might not be the word. Maybe overdeveloping it here. As the wind shear may increase out in front of this. We'll have to wait and see if those upper level lows increase and cause more wind shear. All right, here, pay attention real closely to these maps. This is really interesting. Now, this is the current, the surface map in 24 hours. Okay, it's approaching the Leeward Islands, but notice in the upper right-hand corner of the screen here, right at 50 and 24, we have 20 on the map in the millibars lines here on this map. We have 24 and 20 up in here. And then if we switch to 72 hours, which is the next image, you see it's up near Hispaniola, or would-be Emily. But notice the isobars out here are increasing. We have 24 up here near 24 and 50. Remember, 20 was here before. So that's indicating we have a stronger high-pressure ridge out in the Atlantic, and that's going to push this a little bit further west than some of the models were indicating. Remember yesterday, a lot of the models were like this. They were had it forming, turning east of the Bahamas, but this ridge is going to nudge over in 72 hours, so this might take a little bit of a further west track than what was originally anticipated a couple of days ago. All right, this is the GFDL model showing it in 90 hours from now, and it's about 4 or 5 days from now, and we have system east of the Bahamas, just northeast of the Bahamas, as a tropical storm, but the GFDL model keeps it weak near Puerto Rico and then kind of slices like this and moves north. So I'm still thinking that's kind of an unlikely scenario considering that high is going to nudge in. So this is probably going to be a little further west than what this GFDL model is indicating at this time. Now if we look at the H-WRF, which again was not on the model map at Hurricane City, this has it as a Category 1 hurricane right near southwestern Puerto Rico, and that's interesting because one of my top 20 picks for this year was Cabo Rojo, Puerto Rico, which is on the southwest corner of the island. It made number 11 on my list, and they could very well be affected. And I hardly ever pick any cities in Puerto Rico. People have been watching me pick my cities for years know I hardly ever touch Puerto Rico. But this year, something stood out in the stats, and sure enough, they may be affected by this system as it passes by just to the south of Puerto Rico. But then we move forward in time, and you'll notice the system is right off the coast of Florida, going through the Bahamas, right near Grand Bahama Island. Again, it moves right through Hispaniola, northern coast of Hispaniola, through the Bahamas, and then right near Florida, and it has it as a Category 1 hurricane at that point, just offshore. But it's a rather large system here. You notice how large this is on the map. And I think that model is pretty accurate. Now, what's the scary model out of all this, if you live in South Florida, is the H-WRF HIP model, which is the additional information thrown into the H-WRF. This is the new experimental model they're using down at the National Hurricane Center. And this has it as a Category 2 hurricane near Puerto Rico. And this would be in 63 hours. Again, traveling like this, maybe moving northwest, and then it's going to go right through the northern Hispaniola. And then if we go to the next image, you can see that we have 126 hours, about 5 days out. It's approaching South Florida as a major hurricane, which would be just devastating for South Florida. But again, you can't pay attention to these models that have it as a hurricane because it would tend to be more poleward at that point, and I think we're going to have a weaker system that may actually try to get into the Gulf of Mexico. So again, take those images that show a hurricane at this point a little bit lightly until we actually get ourselves a developing system. All right, here's the Euro model. Now, the Euro is probably a really good model. It's probably the best model, in my opinion, at figuring out where a system is going to go. But the problem with the Euro is it's not real good when you have a system that's not developed. We do not have a developed system yet. But here it is going out Saturday the 6th. And we see it right off the coast of Florida in the northwest Bahamas as a very weak system. So that could be right as well. But again, if it's a really, really weak system, I think it's going to make it into the Gulf of Mexico. A little stronger, it might make it into the Bahamas. But the Euro is something we're going to have to pay attention to. Once this becomes an organized system, it'll have a much better grip on what's happening out there. All right, let me take a look at one more thing, and this is from TropicAtlantic.com. And what I did is I took all the best performing models up to this point. And the best performing model is the AP12 Aviation model, and this has it moving right through Hispaniola, and then kind of hangs a left-hand turn right towards eastern Cuba, and that's the AP12 model. It's only been off by about 26.7 miles in 72 hours, so this is a pretty good performing model. And just to let you know, the best intensity forecast model so far has been the Aviation 7 model, and that's only off by about 1 mile per hour. And we don't really know a heavy forecast on what the AP7 is showing for intensity, but I think this is going to remain a weak system, and I like this path for the AP12. I think that's pretty realistic. I think realistically somewhere between this line and this line is the most realistic track considering where the high pressure is going to be. Anyway, that's about it for now. Again, join me tonight on the Weather in the Media show. There's our latest recon fixes. Still don't have a closed low-level circulation. We'll see you tonight at 8 p.m. No more updates until tomorrow, and we'll see what happens with our system. Check back to Hurricane City if this becomes a depression. We'll have all the latest swaths and cones of error and the model errors and all that kind of stuff at Hurricane City. Thank you again for visiting Hurricane City.